Welcome, Kat, to the Legacy Life podcast and this brand new series about family legacy. So I'm really excited you can join me to kick off this new series. Welcome.
Yay! Thank you, my darling. Super excited. I'm very excited to be your first guest too. What a privilege.
No, it's really nice to have you on. And yeah, it's great. It's great to have you on. I know you're doing lots of lovely stuff in the world, and I'm excited to have a chat with you about how you're supporting, because I know you work with mums a lot as well, like me, so I'm excited to kind of have a chat about that. And as you know, this podcast is about legacy, so I always ask people, what does legacy mean to you? So I'm going to kick us off with that one.
Whoa, let's get down and juicy
straight in.
So yeah, legacy, like it's so many things, isn't it? But like what first kind of comes up for me is or like the word footprint, the word kind of, like making your mark, and and that whole thing of like being at the end, wherever the end is, and knowing that you've left something behind that's like got feeling and got impact, and and has made a difference on whatever scale, because like can be huge, which is great, but like actually there can be a small impact that has made a huge difference. So it's that whole thing about reflecting and looking back and thinking, what have I left behind, and was it what I set out to do? How did it change along the way? And those lives that you get to touch on that like duration of that journey,
Yeah. And it's interesting, because I think we often relate to legacy in that way of looking back. And as you know, I wrote a book with a group of authors this year about not this year, last year. Now it's like 2021 the book was written about legacy. And one of the themes that came up in that was this idea of it happening right now, and not being something we wait to engage with until that kind of end of life kind of point, but can also relate to it in a looking forward kind of way, or a present moment as well.
Oh yeah. And I so as you say that, I so relate to that. And I think that's very much about getting to wherever in your life. And I think it hits people at different points, and some people it doesn't hit because they kind of they stay stuck or whatever, and I kind of think where you come into your power, and really embrace who you are, and that can happen at whatever juncture, and that's that forward facing legacy of like what do I get to do, how do I get to like make this impact that I want to make it, what that I want to make in the world, and I that's very much, that's really in line with like your work and in line with my work, isn't it? That whole thing of like supporting people. Yours is specifically families and business owners that are families and that kind of thing, and with mine it's women in their 40s and 50s, like to get to that point and not be, is this it? More like, this is it.
Yes.
Same words, aren't they? Is this it? Yeah, they are. Just double checking. Are they exactly the same? But it's like such a different, like it's such a different space to be in. Like, this is it, and this is what I get to, to do in the world. Whatever. Like there's people that we know that are gonna make huge inroads, which are going to impact people in and a lot of people in enormous ways, but like I said before, it's not just about that, is it?
Mm.
Because it could be about, that group of that just that one group of children that we'll work with, and
Mhm.
like, so
Yeah.
it's
And
not
I know your background is as a teacher, isn't it?
it was, yeah. Yes,
Yeah.
I call myself a retired teacher now.
Yes. Yes.
Although I'm not retired, obviously. Far
Yes.
too young.
Of course. Of course. But but yeah, it's and when you were saying about a small impact, like it's hard to measure impact, because what we might think is a small thing that we did, like maybe helped somebody or said something to somebody, can have a massive impact.
Yeah,
You might have said something to one of your pupils that stays with them for the rest of their lives, and means that they go, well, Mrs. Gooch believed in me, and so I went on and I did XYZ.
yeah,
Do you know what I mean? Because she said
yeah.
I
And
could
actually,
I could do whatever I want.
yeah, and we can all think of celebrities, sports peoples, like, a whole wealth of people. As we were saying this, was springing to mind of like, oh, they were talking about that person who, when they were 8, and that
Yeah,
teacher that did this, and that sports coach that did that. So yes, and that's one soul, but then that one soul might have gone on to win an
yeah,
Olympic medal. So
yeah.
yeah, and then what's their impact? And then what's
Mm.
that, it's like, it's that whole ripple thing, isn't it? And so often we're not aware of the ripples, actually, are we?
And I think it is that trusting that it's happening. It's like happening all the time. It's happening in our messy moments. It's happening all the time. Um, and that, we come to life with an intention, and that's enough. Like,
Mm.
and just as I said, that's enough. I think that really keys into the work that you do. I imagine working with women who are really at a really potent time in your life, when as a woman in my 40s, I feel like it's a time in your life when you know yourself really well on a level that you didn't when you were younger.
Oh, for sure. And I kind of think, actually, like, it's a really beautiful decade to hit, because think of all those life learnings along the
Mm.
way. We have accrued so much in that journey. And yet, like you mentioned, the messy bits, like, my gosh, for sure. Like,
Yeah.
like, there's always the mess, for sure. Life is life, and it's how we navigate that, isn't it? And, I was saying to someone the other day that, I'm 50 in 4 months, and I'm looking at it as my most spectacular decade, and then
Mm.
some, and it's really kind of, it's that how you frame as well, isn't it? I've had lots of conversations with people about getting old and whatever, and what does that mean? It's like, actually, it means whatever you decide it to mean, doesn't it? And that's the
Yes.
same with everything that, like, we choose to do. It's like how we're deciding to look on that, the eyes that we choose to the lens that we look through, is always like the key thing, isn't it?
Yes. Yeah, absolutely it is. And one of the things with this being about family, in terms of your family, what's your family legacy, do you feel? How do you kind of engage with that idea?
Yeah. So, and like, that's so often, definitely that's part of my driving force with my business,
Yeah.
and I think that's probably definitely conversations I've had with lots of other people that have become entrepreneurs, moved
Mm-hmm.
themselves from whatever they were doing as an employee, and it's so often about that, what they're wanting to show their children,
Mm.
and And it really is that, that whole thing of like, actually, and I think the first thing that springs to mind is I feel people are moving away from it, but you catch people with that thing of like, enjoy now, because when you go to work, that kind of like that mindset, and that, that phraseology around it is like, oh my gosh, like, I've got teen girls now, and
Yeah.
they're like, like there's so much for them to navigate. That's not what a teen wants to hear.
No.
Like, this is, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like you were a teen, I was a teen,
Yes.
and there's some great teen moments, but there's some real, because there's so much growth going on. They don't want to be told that, like, make the most of this, because when it's like, actually,
It's it's
like,
all downhill kind of attitude, isn't it?
yeah, and that is a really, really important, because like I catch people saying it, and I just think that's not the dialogue I want my girls to hear.
Yeah.
The dialogue I want my girls to hear is, you get to choose, and
Yes.
you get to, and if it doesn't go right, you get to choose again, and
Yes.
that's okay. And whatever you do now doesn't mean anything forever, and actually, so whatever you're desiring, really kind of really tuning into that, yeah, anything is possible. And yes, there might be a limitation, like, if you're not that into the swimming, yeah, you probably aren't going to go and win a gold in Olympic swimming if you haven't like got really into it. But it is really that thing of like, whatever you're choosing on your path, actually it can bring you joy.
Yes.
And it's that kind of, it's that kind of conversation I was talking about before. It's almost like that settle mentality, of like, oh, this is it, and then it's it's like, actually, what I think us as parents, our role is to really guide towards like, well, why not you?
Yes.
Like,
Yeah.
why can't you have that? Just, so what do we need to get there? Okay, so that's really quite available to you. How do we get there? Oh, okay, it didn't quite work out. So, like, how do we get there again? Or how do we look at it in this way? Or,
Yeah. And what I'm hearing, what you're saying as well, is that there's not just one path, because we
yes,
can get quite focused and kind of tunnel vision that, life has to look a certain way, or getting to there, you've got to go a certain path, but actually you don't.
no,
Like, there are lots of paths
yeah,
to that end,
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And, and that is what you want them to then bring into their world and their circles, because
Yes.
not everybody is having that kind of dialogue.
Yeah.
As I mentioned before. So actually, if they are bringing that forward,
Yeah.
then who then can they have a conversation with? Like, who's in their
Mm.
friendship group, for example, or, because
Mm-hmm.
these conversations are powerful, and they can have the ability to like really shift someone's direction, can't
Yeah.
they?
Yes.
So
Yes. That's so
mm,
powerful, talking about, because it's my daughter's just coming into teenage years. So she'll be a teenager this year.
right,
She's turning 13. So,
yeah,
she's just coming into that. And I'm very aware that it's a time when they move more away from us and more towards their friendship groups and their friends and their peers,
yeah,
and valuing and maybe listening to what their peers say more than us, which I imagine it's happening more and more for me already, but
yeah, yeah.
I imagine it was going to get more challenging as we go along.
You could call it interesting,
Yes, interesting. Yeah, I don't have to frame it as challenging. It could
varied,
be interesting. Exactly. Yeah, absolutely. And that's so it is interesting that there are ways of viewing things and repeated dialogues that aren't necessarily that helpful.
Yeah.
So thinking of family legacy, and I had no idea we were going to go to here today, but it's just made me think, about, as my daughter comes into being a teenager, there are repeated conversations or repeated phrases or dialogues, a bit like with your daughters getting to that age where they'll be looking to maybe get a job or what have you, that there are these repeated dialogues that aren't necessarily useful. So what can we replace those with?
Repeated useful ones.
Repeated useful ones. That's what we want.
How well, I mean, there's so many different ways to say the same thing, isn't there?
Yes.
So I guess it's opening up those opportunities without sounding, kind of just on a loop, whatever. It's like, where can you capture those moments where it goes, and it's like, it's planting those seeds, isn't it? The seeds of possibility to, like, where can the growth be? Where can this lift me? And I think just that whole thing, and this, is something I've definitely seen in my 20 years as a primary school teacher. Not that thing of, like, just deciding, like, who you are because of the thing that happened, or a thing, or a series of things, or and I'm sure there's probably adults that maybe spring to mind when I say that. There are, for me, that I can think of, who I've had conversations with, that you think that thing became the thing that stopped you.
Yes.
And like I say, it could be a series of, but it's like that stoppingness, and I think that's really key for them to, like, to understand how to navigate how that doesn't, like, it only means what you allow it to mean.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And talking about those repeated phrases, you hear people saying, I'm not a creative sort of person, or I'm not a morning person, or because that got decided at some point, or that got decided when you didn't feel like you were very good at art in school or something. It's like those, and we get to recognize those and break free from those, and actually create a new dialogue or some new programming around that. And I know, I'm sure part of the work that you do, and I know the work that I do with parents and their, with them supporting their children, is around that, around that kind of mindset piece, around that noticing those stories we're telling ourselves, the meaning we're placing on things, and even how we can fall into a trap of viewing our children in a certain way as well, and getting freedom from that, so
absolutely.
Yeah. So we've talked longer than I thought we would already. And of course that happens. Always happens. So, but to finish us up in this conversation, I'd love you to talk a bit more about joy, because I know, when I first met you, I was like, Kat she's all about joy and laughter, and I just love that, that the joy that you have and that I see around your brand and around you is just gorgeous. So finish us up with and well, I suppose if I think about legacy, part of your legacy is helping people connect with joy, right?
Oh, it really is. And you say that, and always what springs to mind, I have this really big vision, and this attaches to the laughter yoga element side of my business. I don't know if you've seen a video. There's a video I watched as I was starting my business of Joe Wicks, the body coach, and it's like a 2-minute thing. It's like, I went to Richmond Park, and if no one showed up, I was still there. And I really resonated, because I started with some laughter yoga workshops. And, I'm sure anyone that's starting a business, like, must really resonate with his business, because it doesn't just all happen like sprinklings of fairy dust, And I was like, I remember going to laughter yoga sessions and no one would go. But because I booked the space, I thought someone might rock up, and I really understood. And then it ends with him, I think it's in Dubai, on a massive stage, and all these people are working out, like thousands. And I was like, I'm going to get the world laughing, you know.
Wow.
And so as soon as you were saying that, it's like, that is my joy vision. You know,
Mm.
it's like, actually, when I found laughter yoga, which was the catalyst for my business, I was like, this is something that you were supposed to find. You know, it like,
Yes.
it found me.
Aha.
And it was a very catalytic moment, and a hugely cathartic, actually. And I was like, and I just had that, oh my gosh, you were born to be a laughter yogi. This is, you know, and I found it probably about 3 years ago, I'd say, and I'd signed up for the training after the first hour that I did.
Wow.
And that was that driving force of like, this is like, you know, I've like, happiness and joy is something that I feel really
Mm.
quite naturally predisposed to. And then I found this tool that enabled me to like share it in a really quick, like super quick, super impactful way. Do you know what I mean? So
Mm.
I know I can coach people to feel happier for sure, and to, you know, embrace the life that they want to have. You know, I'm all about like the 40s and 50s, like, let's make these the most spectacular decades, you know. And but what with the laughter yoga, it was like, this, like, you know, that, like, everybody has this, because we're all
Yes.
able to laugh. We
Yeah.
just don't do it enough as adults. Like
Yes.
like children are our biggest teachers with so many things. They for
Oh,
sure are with laughter, you know?
yes.
With laughter, like, just look at a child, and they just
Yeah.
do it with ease about
Yeah.
nothing, like, you know, really simple things. And then we grow up and we lose our play.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
this is about that connection piece to play, you
Yeah.
know? Like, why don't we get to play? You know,
Yeah.
why
Yeah.
not? You know, and the more we play, the more creative we are, you
Yes.
know. So that's I can't even remember your question now, sorry, because I've
Oh,
really tangented off.
I just
But
had to write a quote down that children are our biggest teachers in so
they
many
are,
ways.
yeah,
I
yeah,
just love that. I
yeah,
honestly goosebump moment,
yeah.
and also
I
your
feel very
vision.
gooseblumpy talking about it, you know. It's just like, you know, it's a real it just lights me up, you know.
Yeah.
And yeah, and that's that whole thing of like, just keeps you connected to your vision, you know, like getting
Yes.
everyone, just, yeah, lighting up the world for sure, you know. And yeah, and that's why I've like really kind of looking at women in their, well, mums in their 40s and 50s, who I feel have maybe dimmed their light
Yeah.
and lost their sparkle, and
Yeah.
kind of forgotten who they are and lost themselves, you know. And
Mhm.
it's like,
Mhm.
do you know what? You get to shine your light, darling, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
And like, and I can get you there, you
You
know.
you are the bridge, right?
Yeah, 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 yeah,
Oh.
yeah.
So where's the best place for people to connect with you who are wanting to reconnect with their light?
Yeah. So I'm on quite a few channels, but I'd say Instagram is like the key one to connect.
Yeah, right.
That so on there I'm at Cat Googe Official. So on there, there's I did 21 days of laughter in December. And I did a 40-day thing. So it's about habit forming, you know, and if we do something
Hmm.
for 40 days, we create that habit. So, you know, if you want to just get a little taste of laughter yoga, there's snippets in my story highlights which just give you you know, just give you that beautiful boost, and, you know, great for shifting energy. So yeah, so I share on there, and share, you know, a whole array of things. But if like the laughter is kind of going, ooh, you know, have a little sneaky peek on there. And on Facebook, I'm Cat Goose. I've just put that in, then you'll find my page. I also have a free Facebook group, and that is for heart-centered women, and it's called the Purpose Collective. And it's like, it's really for women looking for more, you know. And that
Hmm.
relates to what I was saying about that whole, you know, mums in their 40s and 50s that just are kind of going, you know, is this it, to this is it. You know,
Yes.
like this is who I get to be. This is who I
Mm.
allow. And she is shining her light, and that is that whole thing as a part of the legacy, isn't it? Because
Yes.
then that's what their children get to learn too.
Yes,
You know,
yeah, absolutely. Oh, thank you so much, Kat. So much, Kat. And the links will be in the description below as well, so anybody can just click on those there and get connected.
yay! It'll
Yay!
be beautiful to connect with them.
Yay! Thank you so much.
You are so welcome, my darling. Lots of love. It's been an absolute pleasure.
So great to have you on.